Hey friends, I'm Greg, and today I want to talk a little bit about Reformer Pro, which is a super cool plugin by Krotos. The reason it's super cool is because you can actually perform sounds with your mouth, or it allows you to also put in an audio file into your DAW, and it then checks out like the amplitude, so the volume of the sound, and then it plays or maps kind of different sounds from libraries that you can select or create yourself onto this XY pad right here. And you can basically morph between them, and then it will perform all kinds of crazy stuff for you, or you can do it yourself with your mouth. So I have done some preparation work and have created some libraries myself, but Krotos comes with a bunch of super cool libraries, and you can buy more at their own shop. So you can also create your own libraries, like I said, and the way you do this is you basically take audio files, and you can do this from your own library and then chop them into shorter sequences. I then exported all of these into folders, and then these folders I can drag and drop into Reformer Pro. I can open it, and now I can click on this, and then I'll click on this, which opens a little window that is my analysis tool. Now here, I can take the creature growl deep, for example, and I can drag it in here, and now I will have to select my sample rate, and this is important that it's the sample rate that your project is currently set at and using, and in my case that is 96 kilohertz, and then you would just press create, and then it will show up in your libraries folder. I have already created this library, but essentially you can see it here. If you want to delete them, you can press on the little X, and then to select them, of course, you just press here, and you can do that with all the other ones. You can even select the files and mute them, and you can change the volume of the whole file, or you can adjust the length of them. How I use this is basically I have recorded a couple of different inputs from my mic, but I will also do some live recording. So I will basically, I've got my mic input 1 set, and now I will basically just press record, and I'll do some whooshes first. So we're going to make some interesting sci-fi stuff here. So I'll open Reformer Pro and press record, and basically do fantastic. Now I'm going to save these, and now you can see here there's a couple of whooshes. I'm going to take that and loop it. So the next step for me is I really enjoy creating these building blocks. Sonic building blocks is what I call them. They're essentially my Lego bricks for then later layering and putting together stuff. So as you can see here, I've got a bunch of other plugins already on here. So I'm going to basically play back this recording with Reformer Pro. Then I'm going to change the XY pad and play around with it while I press record on this output. So what I've done here is essentially this will record the input of this and this channel, and this is a second creature demo, and this is my sci-fi demo, and I have them routed to this track essentially. And now when I play it, you will hear some cool sounds along with basically this visual moving up and down. So now what I do is I just experiment and I go nuts on this XY pad and see what comes out. And then once I have a bunch of sounds, I will then take those and bring them into more plugin chains. And then I just basically mess around and try to create a bunch of interesting source material. So I'll save those out. And now we can basically just explode that take into in place. And now I have a bunch of different cool little whooshes and swooshes and whatnot. So let's have a listen. Nice. So I've got a bunch of processing chains set up here. So what I would now do is I would you can see a bunch of instances of effect rack. So now here I can, for example, take these, bring them down here, and see what this sounds like. That is pretty cool. Now I can select different ones and mute them. So as you can hear, we are getting some very awesome source. Now what I do is I have a little shortcut set up which basically bounces my track in place. So if I like the settings here, I will just press bounce in place, and then it takes this track and it renders it out. So all the effects on it will stay. So now you can see this track is muted, this track is in place. And you have a bunch of weird sounds. Now what I do is I chop these up and edit them a little bit and listen to them back and basically delete the ones that I don't like and keep the ones that I do like, and then I create a little library. So that's pretty cool, like pass-by sound, for example. Obviously this is all just very experimental and messing around, but I could then take this into another chain, and this might be a little bit loud, so I'm gonna turn it down. Awesome. And I could do the same as above, for example. I could then bring this and set this to record the input the output in stereo. So now what I'm doing again is basically I'm recording the output of this track. So if I hit record again, and I don't want to record this, I can just basically try different things in here and play around with this and create even more source. So let's dive in. Awesome. So we've got a bunch of crazy things here, of course. Now I can once again cut these out and create some interesting stuff with it. But I want to go back to Reformer because this is of course only the start. I have a bunch of pre-recorded audio files here, and I just want to play around with them by having Reformer open and just messing around and seeing what comes out. So there's a bunch of transients here, so you can really create some cool impact sounds. So here's some whooshes. Right, that sounds really awesome. But the thing is, we can do a lot more here. One of the things we can do is I've got some creature growls here, and I can take the dry wet signal and also the playback speed and mess around with it. We can also change how it responds to this. So we'll go to medium or even fast actually, and we'll change this playback speed a little bit slower, and then we'll also get the dry wet signal down. So now we're going to reinforce these growls with some crazy weird sci-fi sounds. Right, that is very cool. Let's listen to the next one, and I'm gonna press record here because I'd like to use this later in my library. All right, we're getting a lot of weird stereo imaging here, so I'm just gonna mono this because we've got some other effects on here that are doing some weird stuff. So let's try this again. I mean, yeah, that just sounds so cool already. And if I just take this into a new track and explode this take, we can listen to what kind of crazy stuff we have created here. Oops. There we go. Yeah, I mean, that just sounds absolutely nuts. And you can obviously take these kind of short snippets and build a library out of them. And then you can potentially take them into Reformer Pro again and create new interesting source material with it. Or you can use it for a redesign or for your games. So we're gonna get our creature sound effects, and I've already created a library from these. So here I have my creature growls, here I have more growls, and some more growls. And now I'm going to perform them live. Let's try and make some weird mouth noises, shall we? Sounds very weird. But yeah, now let's try and play this back. We've got 100% wet right now, so we are just going to hear these sources. So we can turn it down as well if we want that hybrid. I'm going to set it to medium for this, and I want the playback speed to be slightly lower. I mean, come on, how cool is that? Like, you can literally perform super crazy creature vocals. So if I were to use this in a game context, I would create some really interesting source material, use some library stuff, and mangle that with some of my own things, probably process it. And then I would basically put it into Reformer Pro in one of these libraries, or in multiple libraries, and then I just perform stuff. If I needed to have some more pain and whimpers and grunts, I could do that. And then if I want some more harsh, aggressive attacks, like some I can do that as well. And I can really just play around with it. Then I can take all of those samples and I can, again, just simply record the output of my tracks. And after that, I can basically just make a new library from it. And that library I can then use and either process it some more or leave it as is and chop it up. And then after that, I can create super, super cool sound effects with it and basically put them into game. And I have like a super reactive creature. If there's, I don't know, a game update or something, and oh no, so now all of a sudden I need to have some more variations on a specific aggressive growl or a new emote or something like that that's come along, I can just easily perform it again in Reformer. And if you don't have a lot of things, so if you have like one or two good samples, for example, from a line or something like that, you can just take those in and then you can just perform it, and that it is just incredibly powerful. I cannot like overstate how insanely cool this is for the workflow. And like I said, I use it very much in a way where I create little libraries from it, and then I take those libraries and I cut them up and I put them into my big master library to use for later. And for specific projects, I would then just experiment around and create some cool sonic building blocks with that and then use them in my design. So yeah, that is basically a little overview of Reformer Pro. I think it's such a cool plugin, and yeah, thank you so much to Krotos for reaching out to me to do a little cool breakdown of this. So yeah, definitely check out this plugin, download the demo, the trial, and yeah, just have a play with it. You'll definitely get some cool stuff out of it. So yeah.